Jeremy, go ahead.
Paul, I just wanted to alert you that Councilmember Nelson is in the room. And for context, Councilmember Nelson, hi. I just wanted to let you know you entered a robust discussion about the onerous reporting system that we have for criminal activity in the city of Seattle. And Bob was making the point to people that are making the point that the statistics out there don't reflect what's actually going on the ground in these neighborhoods. And I know that's an issue that you've heard a lot about in your committee on economic development, and that's really critical to you. And so I just wanted to give you that context as you're entering the room, but I'll also give it back to Paula. Paula, if you want to introduce and provide any other context.
Yeah, thank you very much. And Deborah, I know that you've had your hand up for some time. We'll come back to this discussion after Councilmember Nelson's presentation, because I do want to kind of wrap it up at the end, but in any event. So thank you very much for joining us this evening, Councilmember Nelson and Jeremy Moan. Jeremy is Councilmember Nelson's staff, chief of staff, I guess, and we welcome you. So Councilmember Nelson is the chair of the Economic Development, Technology and City Light Council, or committee, I'm sorry. She's vice chair of Sustainability and Renters' Rights, and is a member on Finance and Housing, Neighborhoods, Education, Civil Rights and Culture, Land Use, and Public Safety and Human Services. And in her spare time, she is a small business owner, formerly a public servant, and a policy nerd who watches the Seattle channel for fun. You go. She's pragmatic, collaborative approach to addressing our current challenges and improving quality of life for all Seattleites. She does have a doctorate in cultural anthropology. And as I understand, she is a member of the Puget Sound Mycological Society. And I shouldn't say this, but apparently not a very good karaoke singer. So Sarah lives in Green.
But an enthusiastic one.
Well, good to know. Sarah lives in Green Lake with her husband and 2 teenage sons. So with that, I welcome you and would like to turn it over to you to talk about what's happening with the community or the city council.
Okay, but can somebody please remind me to weigh in on crime reporting? Because I love it when you're talking about something I know something about, okay?
Oh, we will have no trouble reminding you. Thank you.
Okay, so thank you very much for explaining my 6 committees, because that was going to take up about a minute of my talk. But anyway, just want to mention a couple of the priorities in my committee, and also and then respond and give you an opportunity to ask me questions about what is of concern to you. And I remind you that I met a lot of you during the campaign. Still the same person, still really, I'm kind of still blown in on the winds of change. I have to say that the council does feel different from when I was a staffer back in the 2000s. I am optimistic that we've got a mayor who is really committed to collaboration. I'm not just saying that because I've lived through 2 other mayoral council relationships. I am very happy with what I'm seeing so far of Council President Juarez's leadership. And I think that we've got a fresh start, frankly. So that is my perspective on life at City Hall. Happy to dish about it more later. My priorities for my committee, broadly speaking, are revitalizing our downtown core and our neighborhood business districts. I work downtown. My staff and I are in the office at City Hall every single day. So I see what's happening downtown, and I'm only focusing on downtown and not what's going on in Queen Anne, because that is the engine of our, it's the economic engine of our region, and we need a plan. And I have a long list of policy proposals to effectuate revitalization, but it includes, working closely with DSA, and also, you know what? I'm finding myself going down that rabbit hole. You can ask me more questions about that later. So anyway, neighborhood business districts and downtown revitalization, and preventing, this is the second big goal I have, is preventing the displacement of BIPOC-owned businesses. Because, we're not just talking about a business owner, we're talking about the jobs and the fabric of a community. And there's so much more that the city can do to help those business owners and entrepreneurs access capital. And there are relationships that a lender will have with a small business owner and a developer of some housing development project, and they figure out how it can be affordable, but we need to create ways of replicating that model. And I can say that there was a step taken in a positive direction when we talk about access to capital. I attended the launch of a new initiative from the Office of Economic Development and the mayor. And this is it's called the Capital Access Program, and it provides small loans at an affordable interest at 4% interest. And the principal is forgivable at up to 25% eventually. And so, but that is great, because it's very difficult to get a commercial loan, even if you have a house to put up for collateral. But more than that, this program does come with a lot of technical support to help business owners navigate the loan application process, and also technical support for how to write a business plan, etc. So I'm spending sentences on this example to show you that there are initiatives in the works, and I'm in the process of developing my own. All right. You know what? When I talk to business owners about some of these real fancy policy proposals that I've got, they all say, that sounds great. What we really need, crime is our biggest problem. So you got to do something about the crime. And then starts the stories of repeat break-ins, of organized and disorganized retail theft, of violence against staff and customers. And you can have one policy legislative agenda and then get derailed by actually what you're hearing from your constituents. And so that is why in my first committee meeting, I said that I'm going to give voice to the public safety concerns that I'm hearing over and over again, because public safety is foundational to our economic recovery. So I'm taking it. I'm owning public safety when it comes to small businesses, and hosted a committee of small business owners and representatives of neighborhood business districts at my committee meeting on February 9th. Suggestions were put forward, because we have to do more than complain. Suggestions were put forward that would make a big difference to small businesses right now, short of and making sure that SPD has adequate staffing, etc. And I'm working with the executive and my colleagues to see what we can do about that. Top two are a storefront restoration fund, because that would give businesses actual money to help with replacing doors in businesses. We're talking about up to $2,000 of a grant. So I'm trying to find money for that. And reporting tool, because people don't have time, if you're a resident or a business, to wait for the officers to come if the property theft or damage was more than a certain amount. I think it's $1,500. So because if it's above a limit, then you have to call for an officer to take your statement. If it's below that, then you go online, and let's face it, business owners who don't plan on issuing an insurance claim because their premiums will go up or their policy will be dropped altogether, just don't bother reporting and going through the hassle. And that is why reporting is down. And so one of the ideas is just add a crime reporting function to find it, fix it. I came up with this idea. I'm working on it. We'll see what happens. But we have to resist the narrative that crime is down or not a big deal unless you're talking about gun violence. It's up for property and violent crime, and we need the numbers to back it up. And we need coordination amongst SPD and neighborhoods, the Department of Neighborhoods and the Office of Economic Development. We need everybody knowing what's happening, and a point person at the mayoral office level that can help coordinate efforts right now and hire more officers. So that is what I am focusing on. Those are some big initiatives that I'm working on right now. My committee meets every second and fourth Wednesday. Jeremy can put in ways to reach me and sign up for my newsletter and all of that. But I can tell you that I am really looking forward to going back to everybody coming back to the office, because when we're talking about public safety and economic development, we need people out and about patronizing our businesses in all neighborhoods and especially downtown. And it's also a lot easier for me to do business. Not being able to walk next door and talk to a council member it really inhibits the ability for your public officials to get your work done. So I'm bearing with it and making the best of that situation. That is what it's like on council right now. And now I will answer your questions.
Great. I'm going to let people raise their hands or whatever, and then we would love to come back to our discussion that we were having about crime and crime reporting and the challenges with that. So does anyone have a general question for Councilmember Nelson? Hi, Don, go ahead.
Hang on. Yep. Yes, I do. Hi, Sarah.
Hello.
Thank you. Glad you won the election. Appreciate it. And you taking the time to do it. I had a question about, I noticed that you did not go for election vouchers. And what I've noticed is that I'm wondering if they're still effective. When you look at the amount of money now that is being raised in these council races and in the mayoral races, whether they are actually effective or not. And I would think that I mean, and I have no idea. I'm not pushing an agenda. You're right. I'm not, it's more, it just doesn't, it seems like it's not doing what it's supposed to do. So I just don't know if an audit would accomplish that, to start to actually look at the numbers, at the amount of money that is raised, how this is actually working out. Because I feel like no one's actually looked at that hard and actually tried to dive into the data.
There are people watching. Jeremy, could you make a note to look into what Councilmember Mosqueda said? I have heard her say in a couple meetings about some, I think there are meetings that are evaluating the program or whatever. I want to know more about that. The short answer is no. I believe that, the intentions for the program were positive, but there are two problems that I see with it. And I'll tell you why I didn't participate. Number one, I believe that the democracy voucher program tends to, back in the day before, in the first cycle, I saw that they tended to help the people that already had name recognition and could gather those signatures and small donations and qualify for the program. Precisely the kind of people that don't need the help, because it does require 400 signatures and small donations even to qualify to get the money from the vouchers that are sent in. Then you have to be asking for vouchers all the time. But as the program has evolved, so that's a problem. As the program has evolved, what we've seen is a cottage industry of signature gatherers and democracy voucher gatherers. And really, the program was designed to foster more communication between campaign and constituents, to talk about your platform and convince people to give you their vouchers. And that was a form of engagement that was hoped for. However, when you have people that are just out there earning their keep per hour by gathering, let's say $25 or one voucher, that communication is not really happening, and we're not really getting to the democratic benefits of the program. I decided not to participate because I declared right at the height of COVID restrictions, and I wasn't going to put my campaign team or the public at risk by going door to door, asking for people to fork over their vouchers. And I believe that the online signature system was clunky, etc. So I could go on, and I don't know if there is an audit planned, but I do think that we need to take a careful look at the program's effectiveness, because clearly I won without the benefit of the program, and in the primary, the person that got the most vouchers got more vouchers than votes. However, I repeat, I do believe that that we have to figure out a way to get less traditional candidates in in the field, and address the fact that if you can't afford, if you don't know a whole bunch of rich people to give you a bunch of maximum donations, we have to address that as well. But clearly, this has not gotten money out of campaigns, and that's something to be looked at.
Thank you.
Hannah Spring?
Hi, thank you so much for joining us. It's great to hear from you. My dogs might be asking questions instead of me because they're pretty noisy, but I work on online safety, and something that I found from research is that a big reason why people don't report things, whether that's online or, in like a physical space, is because they don't trust that anything will happen as a result of reporting, or because they feel certain guilt, like maybe their situation isn't bad enough and there's like limited resources to review reports, and they don't want to take away from those limited resources. So I was just wondering, like, what your thoughts are, if there really is a trust issue, what are your thoughts on how we can solve that? Because it's obviously a big one.
Well, it's a circle, and how we solve it is encouraging people to report it, because it's called cops on dots. And the SPD brass requests this, and so do all the BIA, the business improvement area directors and neighborhood chambers. I'm trying to get people to actually report, because that drives resource investment, right? And so I can't speak to the guilt that people might feel for reporting something that isn't as bad as what's happening to somebody else. But reporting isn't just about getting your stuff back or having an officer show up. It's also documentation. It's a hassle sometimes, but there are many reasons why I try to encourage people to report when they can, and why I'm trying to make it easier.
Totally. I guess, yeah. I mean, I hear you that there are reasons to report beyond having your problem solved, but I wonder if that's the mental model of reporting, right? Like, people think that you report to have someone show up and solve your problem, and if that like feedback cycle isn't happening.
Well, the online, it depends on the cost of your problem and the class of crime. So the SPD website talks a lot about, you can make an online report if with these criteria, and if not, then you need to call 911. You will get transferred to the non-emergency line, and then an officer will come. So that's, and so, but people's individual feelings about doing that, I can't address, but I do understand the frustration that if you report and nothing happens, that does, it breaks public trust.
Yes, exactly. Thank you. I know it's a difficult problem.
Thank you. Steve, you're next. Steve Gritton.
Hi, Councilmember Nelson, thank you for joining us tonight. My wife and I have lived on Queen Anne for 27 years. We're homeowners. We have never had a crime. This past week, for the first time in 27 years, our car was vandalized. And I don't think that that's coincidental. I think it's representative of the crime that we're seeing throughout the city. More significantly, I'm deeply concerned, as many are, of the status of downtown, 2nd and 3rd, Pike and Pine. I hope you've had a chance to see the video that was posted on neighborhood.com yesterday. It's a 2 or 3 minute video of someone walking down the sidewalk. We were there on Saturday. I was there on Friday. It's appalling. My question to you is, why are we not enforcing the laws of open drug use, open buying, selling, and use of drugs in our downtown corridor? The status of downtown, as you're aware, is appalling. It's disgusting. It's repellent. Why are we not enforcing, and what do we need to do to enforce our laws to clean up downtown? Thank you.
Thank you. I will track down that video. I have not seen that. maybe you saw a tweet that I put out on Sunday upon learning about Piroshki closing. My tweet said, "Another business closes after another fatal shooting downtown. Enough is enough. We can and must do better to protect the safety of our citizens, residents, and visitors." That gives you no comfort, just having a politician say, "I know." So the short answer is, I am not sure if it's simply a lack of officers, to make those arrests. I have heard that there are issues with officers who make arrests and have those in the past. Those arrests are not filed and then sent on to Muni or King County Court for prosecution. I forgot to say when I was talking about how optimistic I am, I do think that Ann Davison would be better. But I have the same questions. And so it seems so easy to just arrest people that you see are dealing drugs, because clearly there are people that are taking advantage of our vulnerable population. Why don't we offer people treatment that are addicted? Why don't we make a policy stance that, in fact, it's inhumane to live in encampments, and we've got to accelerate getting folks off the streets and into some kind of short, medium, long-term shelter. I am working to support the work of the Regional Homelessness Authority, hereafter known as the Authority. I voice support for a new direction that they're taking, because here's what needs to happen. We need to follow best practices that other cities are doing, and that includes coordination of all agencies and policy leaders around the implementation of a plan to get people inside, and that is happening. And under Mark Jones's leadership, we need to actually have more than just outreach, a couple of nonprofits sending folks out to just sort of outreach. No, we need people, repeated contacts with folks living in encampments to actually, and a real-time list of housing options that are available. So where do you want to go? Okay, this is available. Come with me, that sort of thing. And then finally, treatment. And so you're asking why we're not arresting. I think that there are several places where there are obstacles to actually doing what seems so common sense to me, to you. And I am chipping away at the inadequacy of our SPD staffing. I'm supporting the Mark Jones implementation plan for downtown. And I do believe that the mayor has shown the political will to actually enforce FAS 1701, which is the rule that regulates when encampments on sidewalks can be cleared.
Thank you. Deborah Santos, you're next.
Yes, thank you, Sarah, for joining us. This has been a fabulous discussion. My statement might not be very popular, but I'm going to make it anyway. I really question Seattle City Council. It seems that we've made a plan a long time ago to create all these bicycle lanes and readjust the traffic flow through downtown Seattle. I go downtown Seattle. I know what it's like. I go down there at least twice a week, and I get to dodge potholes. I get to watch none of these bike lanes being utilized. And all I can think of is, was this a really good use of our money? When Seattle starts to open up, how is that going to affect the traffic? Do we want businesses down there? Because we've got crime issues, we've got poor lanes of traffic. I mean, why does every other street have to have a bicycle lane? And honestly, I get really tired of getting side-strapped or even almost run over from a bicycle on the sidewalk. So, I mean, this is a little bit of a passion for me, but I think of all the millions of dollars that was spent for these bicycle lanes, and who does it benefit? It doesn't benefit the poor. It doesn't benefit it benefits those wealthy folks. And then we take off the helmet law. And so that makes it really make sense. So I'm sorry. I just have a real passion. I love Seattle, but some of these decisions are absolutely ludicrous, and we could be using that money to help those people. So why do we continue to create these things? Sorry, a little passion here.
I like it. So I am pro coherent transportation planning and a coherent set of criteria for the investment of our resources, knowing full well that we have a finite amount of money and a finite amount of roadway, and there are competing uses for our streets, buses, bikes, pedestrians, freight, big freight mobility advocate here because my business is a manufacturing business. And so I hear you. And for too long, planning for these different modes has been siloed. We've got a pedestrian master plan and a bicycle master plan and a freight mobility master plan and a transit master plan. And it seems that whoever advocates loudest for, for the implementation of those plans wins. And so I believe in Vision Zero. And Vision Zero is all about reducing vehicle and bike and ped deaths. Well, of the 28 deaths last year, how many were bicycles? Answer, 2, I believe. How many were pedestrians? The rest. And so when you get right down to it, we're all pedestrians, right? And I think personally that if we're going to really strengthen Vision Zero, we need to bump up investments in sidewalk repair and safe crossings. If we're going to talk about bike and ped, let's give pedestrian infrastructure a little bit more love. And then when it comes to transit, too often buses that carry low-income people are slowed because of constrictions because of bike lanes. And then we've got a problem on West Marginal Way where a bike lane was due to take over a whole lane, and that is a truck route coming off of Harbor Island. I am just telling you that I am listening to you, and I think that we need to take a different approach to investments in all modes. And it's time.
What can I do? I'm retired Boeing executive, engineering background. This does not make any practical sense to me. And so instead of sitting there writing rant and rave columns to the Seattle Times, I would like to do something. Do I write somebody? What can we do to help? Because obviously there is no coherent plan here. Once Seattle starts to move back up again, you're not going to be able to go through those areas.
So I hate to say it, but I put a lot of trust in your elected leaders, and Councilmember Peterson is the transportation chair. I have not met the new interim. Do we have, Jeremy, what's up with the SDOT chair, head director?
Mine, I don't know. I'd have to get back to you on that.
Okay. Here's what I think. Let me just say that the Cascade Bike Club does have a lot of voice. And I think that there's an opportunity here for invigorated public debate with a new mayor and a new transportation chair. Director, I mean.
Okay, great. Thank you. Bob and then Josh. Bob, go ahead.
Good evening, Councilmember Nelson. Thank you for joining us. I'm Bob Kettle. I chair the Public Safety Committee for the Queen Anne Community Council. We've had some exchanges before, and I've been working with Jeremy too. First thing I'd like to say is that we had a meeting on the 911 system with Rob Montague back on 25 July 2016, and I suspect if I was to have another meeting next month, I'd find a lot of the same issues, including stovepiping. I'm a retired naval intelligence officer, and the intelligence community was talked about having stovepipes. The 911
What's that?
In terms of not being able to communicate, like the online doesn't communicate very well with the call-in systems, and slow staffing and all the other issues. I suspect a lot of the same issues will exist today, and I think maybe we should have another meeting on that. On that point, I'd like to offer up us, Paul has heard me say this before, and also the Public Safety Committee, because I think if each neighborhood had a strong functioning community council and had committees hitting each of the areas, transportation, land use, parks, and public safety, you guys would have such a resource to leverage. Like all these questions you're talking about, some of the issues, Jeremy and I could have a discussion and go through them and highlight at least the issues, how they apply to Queen Anne. And these issues really, how they affect us, really affect the city as well in terms of insight, in terms of what kind of crime, how's it happening, the issues with SPD. Paul and I, we do the West PAC, the West Precinct Advisory Committee. You should definitely be linked into Kevin Strand, the West Precinct Commander, and maybe check in with that committee too. Because
okay, I'll go to one of those meetings. What nights in the week are those?
Well, they're 7:30 in the morning.
Okay,
So,
great. That's better. Anyway, I'll look into going to the next one. Thanks.
But I make that offer seriously. I think
Me too.
I'd be more than happy, for that, the West PAC, but I'd be more than happy to, talk public safety with other neighborhoods who are looking to set up some type of structure and how to engage SPD and other I've pretty much engaged every city department on public safety issues over the last number of years and really look to assist in that. And some of the issues that were brought up by Deborah and others, I will say, just to kind of capture it in like one little phrase, is, we have a challenge because we have a bad habit of creating again, military guys, so permissive operating environment. What I like to adjust to permissive criminal operating environment. And we should look to avoid those policies, those decisions where we kind of create that environment where it starts low and then it starts building up to being a bigger and bigger problem. So the idea, the concept of a permissive criminal operating environment is a big problem for our city. And the pieces that play into it really ripple through and then create the bigger problems that we see today. And just throw that out there as one last. So sorry, not a question. 3 different points: 911 system, leverage us, and 2, third one is permissive criminal operating environment.
I've also heard that called radical permissivism.
I like mine better.
Okay. Thank you for those comments.
Okay.
Josh Daniel.
Hi, thanks for joining us. I think before you joined the call, we were talking about people living in RVs that are parked along Nickerson. And my question is, if you were talking to one of those people who lives in one of those RVs and they were being moved along by parking enforcement, where would you tell them to go? And do we have places for them to go? I'm not talking about like a year or 2 from now when there's more housing. I'm talking about like right now. What is the solution for those folks who are living in those places right now?
Treatment, a lot of times. Unfortunately, that is the missing piece that needs to be focused on. But so here's the thing on RV lots. We tried that. I think it was 4 years ago or so, or maybe more recently than that. RV lots, they proved to be, one was in Ballard, they proved to be expensive to maintain. The security was expensive, the sanitation was expensive. And actually the people that were supposed to be helping folks access services, there was no coordination. So that was abandoned. So since then, no, to answer your question, there are not RV lots. This is where this is one of the reasons why I like the authorities plan, is because we don't even know how many people living in RVs are really struggling to find stable housing, or they really do need this, or are they preying upon other vulnerable individuals? And this is what I see in front of the Fremont Brewing facility in Freelard. They are preying on people who are intense. And so until we understand better what is happening, we can't deal with it. And the people that are breaking laws and making drugs and supporting prostitution have to go to jail. And then other folks, have to make some choices about a healthier place to live. In the meantime, we do need to increase the pumping out of sewage program. That's good. But HUD, it is not best practice to create sanctioned encampments, because temporary turns into permanent. And now you have spent the money that you're supposed to be spending on permanent supportive housing on a stopgap measure. So this really comes down to, all right, what is our policy goal? And then let's implement it. Too many different efforts in too many different directions is not focusing our finite resources on what will truly have the most benefit for the people living in tents and in RVs and for the people who are housed.
Thank you. Don, you, and then Sharon after Don. Don, go ahead.
Lowering my hand there. Sarah, I know that you are the at-large council member, and so that means you have the entire city of Seattle to consider. So I do like you to keep that in mind on my request, because I am chair of the Parks Committee for the Queen Anne Community Council, where I've been this way for over 20 years now. And I've worked on a lot of parks and a lot of citywide. I've been on 2 oversight levy committees for 7 years when we had parks levies. And so I've worked all over this city on parks. But now there is a Metropolitan Parks District, which is now called the Seattle Parks District, of which you, as a council member, are a voting board member. And so the city council is the controlling board of the Parks District. There is a park that we fought very hard for over many decades, and it's called Smith Cove Park. It is right down near Terminal 91. There was part of the Parks District campaign was the 6-year plan. That was a interlocal agreement between the city of Seattle and the Metropolitan Parks District. In that interlocal agreement was money to build Smith Cove Park. They guaranteed that it would allow that this was a solid deal. Well, guess what? 4 years after it getting elected, they kicked Smith Cove Park out of being built. So the funding is going to be coming up, the new budget for the Seattle Parks District. And I would like to ask you to make sure that there is the $6 million in there that was there previously for the Smith Cove Park. Now that's only for phase 1. If you really just feel overwhelmingly generous and they've got more money than they can possibly believe, and you know that Queen Anne and Magnolia are more going to benefit more greater than any other place in Seattle, you could always throw another $6 million in there for phase 2. And we could just finish off Smith Cove Park and it'd be fun. It'd be great.
What were the reasons why they took it off the list?
This was part of where in spite of what they promised during the campaign, of course, they shorted the Parks Department money, right, from the general fund. And then they used the Parks District funding to shore up at a very minimum basis the Parks Department. So the Parks Department has gotten shorted really badly. They maybe like other departments, I don't know, but the Parks Department in particular, they couldn't hire staff. Just the temporary staffs that they usually bring in, they did not, and they just stopped all projects that were ongoing. There is a permit for Smith Cove Park. That was granted in 2020 to build it out. So it is ready to go. And they just removed the funding, which upsets me on many levels. But now I'm just taking that great positive approach and saying, gosh, I would like the money. I would, we've been promised it and we'd like it back. So I'd like you to consider that as you get there. And I could, of course, talk about this for hours.
Could you please, I would like your contact info.
Okay.
So here's what I'll say. Even though everybody's focused on homelessness and public safety, local government's main job is to deliver basic services, essential city services that are laid out in our charter: police, fire, parks, transportation, and libraries. And we've been robbing our general fund to pay for, programs, creating bow waves of future expenses for whatever, and then creating levies to backfill. I will have you know that that the library levy was promised not to just take money away from the libraries. And it was supposed to fund the library operating budget only up to 25%. It's well over 39% right now. So that is coming out of, people with fixed incomes who have to keep voting for the renewal of these levies. And so there is a structural problem with how we have made decisions on how we fund our basic services. So yes, the answer is yes, I will look into that. And I don't see any reason why not to support it, but I always know there's another side. So I will do my research and then talk to you more if I have more questions. I also really want to turf Judkins Park so that the CD Panthers can play. That's a community asset that needs to get done as well.
Exactly. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, and Sharon, you've been waving your hand, so go.
Yeah, I didn't coordinate this with Don. He usurped a lot of what I was going to ask you. I was going to bring up Smith Cove Park as well. What he didn't mention is that for over 20 years, Don and I have been instrumental along with the council in trying to get a dog off leash area for Upper Queen Anne. And he did not mention, but part of what is in phase 1 of Smith Cove is a dog off leash area. It was originally supposed to be 1 acre. They cut it down to half an acre. And now, of course, the funding somehow has disappeared. We don't know where that $6 million went. But we have just recently asked, we have a critical need. I mean, all the things we've been talking about tonight are so important. The crime, the homelessness, we all know that. But as you said, this is a neighborhood issue I want to talk about. This is really important to Queen Anne. We have an abundance of dogs and dog owners and taxpayers and voters, and we cannot get a dog off leash area. We have tried for over 20 years. The park department denied us a dog off leash area in Trolley Hill Park. We went through the whole process. There was a public meeting. About 150 people showed up. At least 75% of them, I think, wanted a dog park. Parks denied it. We had a public process for McLean Park. We applied to get a dog off leash area there. We were told no, can't have one there. We went after Upper Kinnear Park, which is an unofficial dog off leash area anyway. They said no. That was when Ken Bounce was superintendent. He said, you can have one in the lower part of Kinnear Park. We asked for it to be up near the tennis courts because that's more visible and closer to most of the residences. They said no, it's got to be way, way down at the end, which is where all the encampments are now. And people don't feel safe going there and never have. There are all kinds of issues with that park. And then we asked, and I think it was 2006, for a process. We didn't ask for the park. We've asked for a public process and for Rogers Park. And we had a lot of people, that wanted that dog park. They said no. We have just recently asked again and filled out the paperwork because Parks is supposed to have a process. They didn't go through the process. They denied it immediately. They did not follow their policies and procedures. They did not have a public forum. They did not allow people to come and express their desires and to try to balance the neighbors who didn't want it, against all the people on the hill who would use it and did want it. They didn't even try, and it's a pilot program. Every dog off leash area is set up anyway as an 18-month pilot. So since you are on, and Don said this, you're a Parks District Commissioner, I'd like to bring that to the forefront of your attention to see if you can do something to help us just get a process going.
Yeah, I know nothing about this. This is brand new information to me. So, I need to understand better if it's part. Yeah, I'm hearing we need a dog park anywhere, and then Smith Cove Park in particular. They could be.
That was already been approved. The one at Smith Cove has been approved. It's just not funded now.
Would you be happy if that got funded? Was that a win-win?
That's a win.
No, it was a big fight to get it in the plan, but that's what Dawn was telling you about.
Okay.
We don't know where the $6 million is that would build that phase one, which includes children's play fields along with the half-acre dog park. And that's down in Inner Bay. But
Okay.
we need, for the top of the hill, we are frustrated, and it's been over 20 years and we can't even get a public process with parks trying to help us. We need
Okay.
someone to tell them to help us, help
right.
us find a place or to negotiate with the neighbors. That there's always opposition, no matter where the park's going to be.
And have you talked to Councilmember Lewis, because he is both your representative
Yes,
and
and I
chair of
think
public
Parker's
assets?
on the line with us tonight. Parker's aware of this from Councilmember Lewis's office. Parker, are you there? Yeah.
Okay, Parker, maybe you can give me some background later.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
happy to connect later. And
Okay.
we've been very involved in the process of the last 3 applications and have getting full funding for Smith Cove Park in the Park District renewal as one of our highest priorities.
Okay, got it. Well,
Okay. We're gonna let you guys take
It's
that.
just been within the last month that we've been denied a process for Rogers
okay.
Park.
Okay,
Thank you.
thanks, Sharon.
Anything you could do would be greatly appreciated by thousands of people that live here in the community.
Got it. Thank you. All right. I'll
Okay.
throw my citywide way around.
We have two more hands up. We'll go with those quickly, Bob and then Caroline, and we'll let Councilmember Nelson take a break. So, Bob, go ahead.
I'm sorry, I just want to take a quick advantage of Don's reminding me that on parks and issues like that, and the fact you're at large, and actually take off my Queen Anne Community Council hat and put on my Ballard Eagleson VFW Post 3063 hat and highlight. I won't put it on actually, but just to highlight the school levy. Looking at Memorial Stadium. Went down there with fellow council member Creighton Carroll, and obviously that's in need of repair. And I just wanted to highlight, as part of that, there's a memorial wall, memorializing nearly 750 young Seattleites who died during World War II. And the memorial is trashed. It is an absolute disgrace. And I've been raising this issue with some folks earlier in the last month, and ahead of the levy, the school levy vote. And I just wanted to quickly bring it to your attention, because obviously the school district and the city need to exchange ambassadors to work together, it seems like, to find a solution to the Memorial Stadium. But then also we have to find a good answer in terms of the state of the memorial wall that's located at Memorial Stadium. And
How expensively is it trashed?
well, I've got pictures. It's basically, the lights don't work, the fountains don't work. Somebody had the bright idea of putting a basic parking lot right up to it, so it's poorly set up. There's trash everywhere in the area where the lights are, and then if you look at the fountains, there's just junk in the fountains itself, and it's really a disgrace. And so I'm just taking this quick opportunity, since you're at large, and it's not really a Queen Anne, although there's many veterans on Queen Anne, to raise this to your attention. I've been raising it with some other folks, but obviously the city and the school district need to come to some kind of answer in terms of that site, and then the revitalization, the rebuilding, or whatever the answer is for the stadium. But as part of that process, or even before that process, the memorial wall really should be, taken care of.
Yeah, and until cement or whatever, at least some respect and TLC and some cleanup.
Exactly.
So,
Thank you.
oh, I'm sorry, Bob.
I just want to say thank you.
So before we go to Carolyn, I wanted Sarah and Jeremy to both know. So there've been a lot of things that we've sort of dumped on you. We'll make a list and make sure you have the contact information for the people
Okay, good.
who've spoken or raised an issue. And then they can connect with your office, and you don't have to rely on the quick notes you're trying to take for everything, because it's a lot. Okay, great. And Carolyn Davis.
Hello. So having been lucky enough to sit at the feet of Don and Sharon at some of the parks meetings, I want you to understand in a bigger way, the dog park off-leash area thing is really a kid issue, because what's happened, and I think got much worse during COVID, is that people up on Queen Anne have essentially kind of taken over. We have a field that's called Big How, which is designed as a play field and set up for softball, baseball, soccer, et cetera. And people just started using that as an off-leash dog area. And so when dogs are running off-leash, it tears up the field and destroys, wrecks the grass. People aren't cleaning up after their dogs because they're often over standing, talking to each other, having kind of a social moment, and the dogs are running around. And, you know, if your dog pooped like way over at the other end of the field, you're not going to go running over there and clean it up. And I drive by the field down on the way down to Nickerson, which is across from Aegis. And there are people in the early morning doing the same thing with dogs running loose down there. There are dogs running loose in Rogers Park. And what's happening is the play field's designed specifically for kids, that sometimes kids on special teams pay money to be able to use these. They're being ripped up. And I don't think a lot of the dog owners are necessarily even tuned into what's happening here, but the off-leash area is really a much bigger issue in terms of preserving the play fields for the kids.
So are you saying that a designated dog park in Smith Cove is the answer, so that people have a place to go instead of just going in where they're not allowed?
I think it would help a lot, and particularly if you could get in on the ground floor of designing it, because it's, for most of Queen Anne, in reality, it would be someplace they'd have to drive to. But if it were worth going to, they well might.
Okay.
You know, one of the reasons they want a thing on top of the hill is because the only place now is Lower Kinnear Park. If you're not wanting to drop 500 feet and back up with your dog,
right,
you're not going to go there. But if there was something that had appeal, a view, you know, there's a lot of Smith Cove Park that could be worth doing.
Okay. Thank you for the education.
We'll add a couple of other parks issues like Big How and some other things. And I guess from my perspective, Ben Bennett, who is here as our treasurer, helped launch a community survey about 2 years ago now almost. And one of the things that we always like to bring to the attention of any of our elected officials is Queen Anne is perceived as being a community of rich white people who all live in single family homes. And that is not true. We are a community largely of people who rent. We have many multifamily buildings in our community. We have many facilities for low income and disabled people, as well as a number of shelters and low barrier housing facilities and things. And as we become, and we are much more diverse in terms of ethnicity than you might think. So as we become more densely populated, and we also have a lot of children, I think it was 40% of our residents are under 18 and over 60. And so those are people who rely on parks a great deal for their backyard or their front yard or any yard for that matter. And we have lots of people with pets. So these kinds of services that we're talking about are things that are really important to a community if we're going to be able to continue to grow and become more dense. So that's why they're very important to all of us. So,
well, parks are commons, right?
Right, they are, yeah.
And basic service. So health, air quality. Yeah, I get it.
And one last side note, I think Jessica posted something that while we have been talking, there was another shooting downtown. So
Really?
yeah. So we definitely have some crime issues, and we'll talk separately about that because Bob and I can go on for quite a long time. Anyway, are there any other questions, or are we ready to let Councilmember Nelson and Jeremy go for the evening? And we definitely appreciate your being here.
Can I ask you a question?
Yes, Leva.
First of all, why isn't she mayor?
Here's why. I don't want to be. I'm not organized enough.
Boy, I just think you're a terrific speaker. Okay, let me just briefly, because I tend to be a little verbose. I was wondering, we have a Starbucks in Lower Queen Anne and a Starbucks in Upper Queen Anne. And one day I walked into the one in Lower Queen Anne. It's attached to that really yellow hotel. Maybe it's the Mediterranean Hotel. And their lobby was closed. All the seating was closed. And I said, what's going on? Because, restaurants have been opening up again. They said, oh, we're not closed because of COVID. We're closed because of customers bothering other customers and bothering the baristas. I thought, gosh, that's really too bad. And then I bopped into the one at the very top of the hill, like near Boston Street. And I was running to yoga, so I didn't really have time to get a drink. But same thing, the seating was closed. And, now there's really no place to go and have a coffee. And why are things so dangerous? But the lobby is closed.
This is Carolyn. The Upper Queen Anne just reopened Monday, and I think
they did. Okay.
I think part of their problem is they had a period where they were very short-staffed because of Omicron.
Right.
Yeah, and
Okay.
this is Jessica. So the whole region, the whole downtown region, and you're part of that, was closed and has just reopened. So Leva, you should have no problems now.
But is the Lower Queen Anne one is open too?
It should be because it was a regional
Okay.
decision. So you should have no problem having a seat in the cafe.
Okay.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you, Councilmember Nelson. Thank you, Jeremy. Thank you.
Thank you very much for having me. I appreciate the invitation.
Great questions, and we will get a litany of information to you.